welcome to episode 21 of UK League Chat. EU Masters are well underway now. We're halfway through the group stage, and it's not been ideal for our UK sides so far, I don't think. To join us and chat over it is Ibriz. How you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you. Pleasure to see you both, and yeah, really excited to soft flame the UK representatives
Soft
and EU
flame.
Masters. Can't really go hard flame today, or can I?
We'll see. Well, we'll start with the ones you probably can, if any. Let's start off with Excel. What is going on? Have Fnatic just broken Excel? Oh, let me check. Have Fnatic broken Excel, or did Blue Azur's Fnatic emote break Excel? Because, and did they? I was hearing like that he took it by accident or something. He meant to do a different emote, but it was like so perfect, and I don't know. They just, since the Fnatic series, they look like a different team. Like, what do we think is going on?
I think they are a different team. I don't know if they should check, but I feel like there's different players playing with those nameplates. Like, honestly, I think that BT, for me, I looked at this group and I thought, okay, BT could possibly top this group. I'm not even joking. I did look at it and think, like, I didn't think that maybe they would win every game, obviously, and stuff like that. But I did think, actually, this is a strong side. Get rid of the Fnatic playing. Like, they were one of the best sides in the UK scene. And I looked at kind of just, I kind of thought they would be better than Gamer Legion, to say the least. And then Gamers Origin would be kind of so-so. And I'm completely wrong, because just XL just have flopped in this group. And there's so far you can only say it's a mental boom. But there's a play style difference. They're getting out run around the map. Like they have an inability once they're behind to kind of get anything back. I think it was only the Gamers Origin game where I think they kind of stabilized it a little bit, but really they were never what you would say truly ahead at one point. And it just feels like the giving up kind of part way through games. Like you're seeing the champs on, like you're seeing the players on some weird champs. Like I would never have seen Kasing on a Pike, you know, and like it's like they're trying different things which they aren't even used to doing. There's just so much wrong right now.
And it was like the whole Omnistone Pike thing that no one was really too sure on as well. And it's just we can start off a bit with their first game against Gamers Origin. They just look like special. We every time we talk about UK mid laners, at least we were talking about who's better. Special with Magic Felix. Special looked to do like just nothing. I thought this game, like he just really struggled for me to have any kind of impact. I don't know if that's I don't watch many other ERLs, so I don't know if Takui is.
Yes, Takui is the real deal, actually.
Yeah.
Takui is considered to be the probably best mid laner outside of LEC, alongside Certus and Leader from Schalke and Maus. And he, alongside Vethio, the mid laner of LDLC, the other French team at EU Masters, were just head and shoulders above the competition in the LFL. And then Tukui in playoffs was just head and shoulders above Vethio as well. So literally this guy is the standout mid laner of his region. That being said, yeah, we always looked at Special as this player that was way too good for regional leagues, but way too inconsistent, you could say, for the actual LEC stage. And the fact that he got exposed, not necessarily super hard, but he was just limited in his options. And without that clear kind of playmaking potential from the mid lane for XL, they kind of folded. Because you mentioned the Geo game, but I'm looking also at the GL game where they put Deadly on Ziggs for the first time in his career, where he doesn't really play mage bot lanes. Like in solo queue, sure, he spams Syndra. In scrims, he spams Syndra, but Syndra is pick ban. So when that's taken off the table, you have him, you know, default to traditional ADs. Yes, he can maybe play Draven into Callista, that kind of thing, but not entirely sold on his champion pool, even if on traditional ADs he's like top 5 outside of LEC easily. It's not the carries that the issue on that team, by the way, to say nothing of the rest of BTXL.
Well, the thing is as well is that what I especially from this Gamers Origin game, this was kind of like the first game, so I was a bit like, I kind of gave him a little bit of slack just off it, but like none of the players apart from I would say Deadly really appeared to try and do something. Like there was no proactivity. It just felt like they kind of just got kind of a lead and then just lost it and weren't really doing anything to get it really back. It just felt very lethargic. And I kind of, it did feel like Deadly was trying, and actually Deadly was, if you had to have probably a best player out of this side, like Deadly is showing like the qualities which he does have at points. The other team though, the other players around him just aren't at this point.
I saw they did because they have their like weekly or their Black Player of the Week Twitter poll, and they did it this week. I think Deadly and Special were in there. I didn't check. I didn't vote myself. I'm not sure who won. There wasn't a no vote option. There you go.
Okay, yeah. Just I think Deadly is a fantastic player, and I really do respect him in game. But not having a bot laner that can competently play non-traditional picks limits you in draft pretty heftily. And you look at BTXL's draft, even against YDN, you know, that game that we're obviously going to touch on later, I hope. And I look at it and I see components of a decent draft that are just kind of smashed together into a non-cohesive kind of unit. Because you have like the individual engines of like the Sejuani Aurelia, for example, but the pieces around it would complement a different lineup entirely.
Yeah, because I thought, I don't know if it was like in that first game, we're talking about like Deadly doing as much as he could, but like against like Ornn, Trundle, Taric, what is he going to do? Like he can only. It didn't feel like he could do anything. There was no way he could get onto Azir, no way he's getting onto XD Smiley either on Aphelios, and it was just like he could do as much as he could. But was that maybe just a draft issue then? I wasn't really sure.
Because I think at that point you're kind of looking at maybe Sendo and Special to kind of alleviate something. But when they don't do anything, then it's pointless. Like at the end of the day, like Sendo on a gangplank, like to go 0, 1, and 3 is quite bad, to say the least, really. Just because 9 times out of 10 you could just put your ult down and get an assist off that anyway. You know, and like we've already touched on, Special was just outclassed. So when you get rid of the other options, it makes Deadly's job even harder. And with the comp which he was up against, it was very much well, you just got to see what happens at that point. And it did. They slowly lost that. Well, they didn't slowly lose that game, but it was gradually a loss where it didn't feel like they were ever going to get it back.
Then we touched on that second game a bit with the kind of like weird Omni Stone Pike. There was just some weird things from Excel in general.
That's not that weird, actually, by the way. That's just Pike is absolutely fine with Omni Stone. You get a lot of utility from it, and as well as that, just consider the fact that there's no real insane keystone for him. He's a bit like Draven or Bard or any of these champs that do pretty well with a couple of keystones, but none really scream, take me every game. Because the Aftershock as well, if you consider that he was against a Trundle in the game, that's just giving free stats to the Trundle at some point as well. And I think it was a fine adaptation to make, but the fact that they tried this Pike Ziggs bot lane for a player that doesn't play Ziggs, because they said, look, we're against a Prime League team where Prime League has Ziggs as pick ban first rotation every game. We need to take the Ziggs away. Send the Ziggs bot on a guy that doesn't play Ziggs. Put the Pike on roam duty from minute 1. Yeah, sure, you can hold your own against Senna Tam Kench, but if you're playing Ziggs and you're not actively getting tower plates in the first 14 minutes, there's something like really, really wrong with your cohesive game plan.
Yeah, and that the roaming from Kasing, they couldn't really get any picks or anything with it anyway. So it's just not really that effective in the end. We touched on tax a bit, and actually I was watching your one of the VOD review streams where you guys were talking about the Trundle gang that was like, I don't remember exactly when, it was really early on. They pinged Trundle, they knew he was top, and then Sendo just still was like halfway up the lane, no wards, and got ganked and died. And I was thinking, like, that's not even like a thing of like maybe some players are at a different level. That seems like a pretty basic thing. Like, I wonder, could there be a chance that they are maybe just like used to playing cocky like in the UKLC? Because I would have presumed they've been scrimming against these kind of teams anyway, so they shouldn't be making those kind of like silly mistakes. I couldn't really work out why Sendo would be doing something like that. And I think you guys touched it on the stream as well, that they knew Trundle was there. Taxa didn't make any effort to match
help
the gank.
catch the wave or
Yeah,
match
yeah.
the gank. Yeah, just leaving his laners out to dry. And I think that we actually had this discussion before we went live with this, of course, where we were talking about one of you voting Taxa your MVP
That
of the
was me, yeah.
UKLC. Yeah. And I agreed with that for the regular split. And then it felt like he just looks like a different player entirely since that playoffs run. Even since the finals, when they were up 2-0, he was not playing that super utility. Well, he's still utility focused, sure, but he's not as cerebral about it as he was before. And when you have a non-mechanical jungler that you're purely putting on utility roles and he's failing at the utility stuff, then you have to question what is this guy actually bringing to the team besides, a couple of decent smites and whatnot, because that was not a good look for him. And I called him Dan Light, and I think that that's actually doing Dan a discredit at this point more than it is praising Taxa.
I think the other issue which I seem to be having is that Taxa's having champs which he's comfortable with. These aren't you can kind of even have the excuse with Deadly and Kasing, these are even though for me you shouldn't be playing these champs if you're not really 100% sure. But with Taxa, he's playing champions which he's definitely knows how to play, and he's executed to a high level in the ERLs. But then he's just we've had that kind of opinion of him on these champs, and like you said, look, he's doing nothing with them at this point. He just seems just not with it. I don't know if it is possibly an online issue and an offline issue, because I know that the BT they used to be in the same room together. I don't know if they are in the same room anymore. So it could genuinely be because of obviously what has happened. It's more offline, and so they aren't as cohesive. But for me, that's kind of that should have been sorted out going into a U Masters anyway, if that was an issue. But yeah, just Taxa just isn't impacting the game. And as you said, when you don't get your jungler impacting the game, I think right now, and then you're going up against junglers who are in every BT game, I feel like the junglers have been a lot more proactive. And then you're kind of just seeing where's Taxa, and he's just nowhere near, or he's not even proactive to a point where if there's a gank bot lane, he's top lane. It's just, if there's a gank bot lane, he's just somewhere else, and he's not doing anything. And that's an issue.
I wonder if it's because we're saying he's been playing his comfort picks. Literally, every jungler at E-Masters is playing Trundle, any chance, and he's not played it once so far. And I looked this season, he's played 1 or 2 games in the UKLC. It looks like it's maybe not something he's too comfortable on, and perhaps that's why they haven't tried to prioritize it themselves. I wonder if that could be impacting it all, because I'm not some top level player, so I'm not sure on the intricacies of why Trundle is top right now. But I think you're muted, Ibriz.
Good shout. It's been on my life. Thank you. I was like, I think everyone can play Trundle, to be fair. I also think that, again, we point back to draft and we say, look, maybe XL can't flex it to the support role. As well as that, though, just consider the fact they've had such high priority on non-jungle picks anyway. And I think that a lot of that is putting faith in Taxa to have these picks that you can play into it. Sure, Gragas is fine. J4's kind of shaky, but should do okay. Definitely don't play Sejuani into it. Yeah, and I think it's fine, but at the same time, jungle is not necessarily where their priority is in champ select.
But then when you've got Special on the Azir, and then you've kind of got the Jarvan, for me that then screams that is kind of like a mid-prio game. And yet again, Special didn't really impact that much. It's an Azir J4, which literally the ult of J4 is specific at this point for Azir's soldiers right now, because they do so much damage. They can lock up so many enemies at once, but they both didn't get a single kill in that game, especially with the Azir.
So the thing about the Azir, are we talking about the Game of Legion game? Yeah, the thing is that the Pyke wanted to fish for something mid, but the Corki was actually very, very safe from Knight, and it's quite a hard gank to commit onto. And I think that Game of Legion actually played that out quite well to not force into any sort of 2v2 scenario, and instead just have Rabble shadow phones in the side lane, get the Fiora in a position where she could actually scale up. And Rabble played the supportive role that we wanted to see from Taxa since the end of the regular split really, really well. And Rabble is, I'd say 4th, maybe at best, jungler in this tournament. That's behind Zlatan, Elioya, and Larox, if Larox plays. Yeah, Insights. Yeah, so yeah, I think that Taxa has a lot to come away with from there. But yeah, I feel bad for just flaming one player, and of course this team's issues aren't just limited to that. We spoke about draft, we spoke about mid lane. I'm not entirely sold on Sendo either. And again, as I mentioned previously, these are 5 long-term resident players, plus you have them merging with the Nordics anyway. So I'd say if XL are looking to make roster changes come summer, you're looking at the solo lanes or the jungle.
And I think, to be fair, though, we have got to give credit to Gamer Legion as well, because they did actually play like a very smart, a very acute game. Like, they had their game plan, and as much as you can flame BT, like, kind of Gamer Legion didn't give him a chance at all, really. And it was probably nice for Hiana to beat BT and Vistam as well, who obviously previously had played against BT. So they did probably have a little bit of knowledge, but I don't even think they would have expected this draft to come up against them.
And well, let's talk about the last game a bit. So YDN Gamers.
We don't need to talk about this.
So I'm pretty sure they were, kind of widely considered the 4th place team of the group.
Yeah.
And XL still lost. I don't know. At that point, to me, it's sort of like their confidence is like completely gone. I don't know. It's a tough one. I felt special in a couple of the team like special. I wouldn't say it was fed. Like, there was people like ends with 10 kills on Draven. That was fed, but special was strong. Like, he was farmed up. Deadly was farmed up, and like special on Aurelia, like that's a champ you can dive in, get on the Draven. And there was a couple of team fights like towards the end of the game, the ones that they ultimately lost the match, where he just seemed to do nothing. Like, he would just either get caught early on, or he would be kind of trying for a flank, didn't feel like he could get in, and just not really go in, not really do anything. And yeah, I thought I was pretty disappointed within that match. But even so, it's a game they should still win, even if 1 or 2 players are sort of not at the top of their game.
Yeah, I do want to actually take another look at the draft for that game in particular, because as I said before, you just have these components that don't necessarily slot in well together. Yes, Ornn goes into pretty much any team comp, but Sedge Aurelia, it's okay. Kalista, Thresh as well. When the Kalista gets countered, there's way too much physical damage there. The magic damage from tanks alone. Ninja Tabi just completely ruins this team. The only one that should be going Merc Treads is the top laner, because you're playing against Ornn Sejuani. Really just not a great draft there, I'd say. And yeah, as you said, the game execution was kind of but actually just taking a step back from the game and back at looking at the group as a whole, coming into this event, we looked at Group A as having 3 teams playing for 2 spots. Of course, Gamers Origin, Gamer Legion, BTXL. Whoever lost a game to YDN was going to be the team that didn't make it out of groups. And of course, XL losing this suggests to me that even if they play to a better level next week, short of going 3-0 and someone else just rolling over and dying, they should absolutely just not be making it out here, which is kind of disappointing considering how dominant their regular season was.
And I think, though, it's hard to say, because obviously it's difficult when it is like a tournament at this scale, because obviously it is every day. That form probably does play a little bit into it, especially more so with XL, who had got reverse swept by Fnatic. It probably didn't affect them as much then, and then they go 2-0 in groups. So ideally, maybe if this YDN game was the first game of EU Masters, it could have gone a different way, just in terms of just confidence and ability to play it. But like you said, I don't think the draft was there for BT, but I also thought that YDN played the game which they wanted to play. They wanted to play kind of aggressive, fast. They wanted to get the game over with, and you had Ents on the Draven, you had the Zoe in the mid lane as well, and they played the game which they wanted.
By the way, Ents on the Draven plays off of your previous point pretty well, because Ents and Cospect pretty much only play Draven and Nautilus in solo queue. If you've done the tiniest bit of scouting there, genuinely, that was such an avoidable situation that it's just kind of puzzling, actually, because this was not a good look for XL.
Yeah, that's another good point. I'd seen on your VOD review stream, wasn't it? Was it the gamer? One of the coaches you had on? Was it
Gamer Legion's coach.
And he was saying like the level 1 cheese that they did against XL. He said they did it like every match in their league. He said they got like 6 first bloods with it, and he was saying like about that same thing. If someone had scouted our games, they would know that we do that, and they wouldn't fall for it.
But then you've also got to look at it from the other way, because just a little touch on the other matches, the Gamer Legion and the Gamers Origin match. They put Hjarnan on Heimerdinger. They knew that Hjarnan was going to pick Heimerdinger, and so they found out a way to kind of counteract that. So they actually used a strategy, knowing, they are going to go this comp. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and then build a comp to stop that and kind of trap them in. And I do kind of got the sense that maybe, because it was clearly a kind of a late scaling game, which XL wanted. It just didn't go that way because they just got absolutely demolished quite early. And so at the end of the day, it was one of those where maybe they thought, they're going to pick the Draven, and it might have been a bit of overconfidence. It might be 0-2. They maybe thought, it is the were the third seed for Italy or second seed, or did they win it?
First, Italy, yeah.
So that's a bit, but either way, they probably just thought, we'll get them have that, and then we'll work around it, kind of with the Gamers Origin match. But it just didn't work out at the end of the day. It really, really didn't work out for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's stop talking about XL for a while, because it is quite depressing. It's just sad. They're meant to be our best team, and and they seem. Did they get out of groups in summer last year?
I think they did, and then they got killed by Mouse Sports in the quarters. But let me actually just check that.
Because it's weird. Like it's obviously every time now it's just them and Fnatic that get through, but Fnatic seem to, even with different kind of rosters by now, seem to be the side that generally does better, even though in the regular season they're like more or less neck and neck.
And it sucks as well, because I've got friends who watch the LEC, the LCS, and then will watch EU Masters as well at that point, because I kind of tell them, it's like, Special's doing really well, Taxa looks like a really good jungler as well, and then you kind of just, you're then seeing these players and the people are like, our region sucks, and it's like, no, it was good, they were good at one point, kind of thing. And then but the thing is, though, is that attracts a lot of that, while it's just for a group of my friends, could be for a lot of other neutrals who are watching this. There'll be a lot of people in the UK and around that scene which will just tune in to see EU Masters, and then they're seeing BTXL lose 0-3, and along with the LEC side not doing well and underperforming, it's not going to do well for a brand either way.
The thing about BTXL here in particular is that they're trying to play the other regions' playstyles, is the thing, instead of playing the same way that they were dominant in the regular split on. And that doesn't really work out when you have a team that plays every style in Gamer Legion, a team that's much more refined at the style you're trying to emulate in Gamers Origin, whatever the hell YDN is, and even on paper, your players aren't as good as their counterparts, bar maybe Special going blow for blow with the top tier mid lane talent in this group. And I just need to see something completely different from them.
And I think we will. I do think we will. I can't imagine this being the exact same BTXL which we're seeing in the first day. I can actually imagine them doing very well. It is just too little too late. I think maybe if they beat YDN, it could have been one of those situations where 1 and 2, you could possibly then go and get that and clinch that second place if you just do well. But like I said, I can't see them going 3-0, but I can see them going 2-1 if they do make improvements, because there is a good side in that squad. They just need to execute it properly.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's wait and see if they do. Fingers crossed. Let's have a bit of a chat about Fnatic then. Luckily, we've not got both of our teams that have absolutely shit the bed. So Fnatic, they're not out of the woods yet. So in their group, them, Mouse, and NG Port Wizards are all 2-1, and then eSuba have been like the kind of free wins so far.
So it wasn't that free, but yeah.
Well, maybe not. They're the ones that everyone has beaten, at least.
True.
So
Energy Pot Wizards though
They'll
make me
you work for
question.
it.
Yeah, like...
Energy Pot Wizards are actually legit, by the way. They have some of the best drafting in all of EU Masters, and their coach is Faxi. He used to play in LCS for Rocket. He's very, very smart about the game. And yeah, Luxie, when he gets Cassiopeia, of course he'll hard carry. It's his champion, and I don't know why teams continue to give it to him.
Well, I think it was when I think it was Torok last week on the show was saying that I think he might have scrimmed against them. He was saying that they were really good and they shouldn't be underestimated.
Yeah.
Well, they came out and said that the Fnatic group was a harder group from their opinion than what the BTXL group was.
Yeah.
In terms of getting into the top 2 spots, and to be fair, you can kind of see why they think that now, because obviously I didn't know much about Energy Pot Wizards whatsoever, but that they make you work for it. And even Asuba, you're saying it's a 3-win. Like, I feel like Asuba have not given up in the games which they have.
Asuba gets so far ahead, and in play-ins as well, they did so well repeatedly in every early game. By the way, in play-ins, they were in Gamer Legion's group, and actually upset a win from Gamer Legion, by the way, which was cool. But yeah, Isuba, they get ahead early, they get ahead mid, but they don't know how to close the game. So you'll see them play like 35-minute games and lose. But if the game ends at 20 minutes, there's a good chance that they'll have walked away with it. But of course, they also need to turn things around in week 2.
And their only real, I would say, convincing loss was against Fnatic in the first day. I think the other 2 games then after that have been relatively competitive, even at that. But to speak about Fnatic just in general, I think Fnatic have actually done pretty well so far. Like, I think to go 2-1 is impressive. And to be fair, like, as much as you were just praising Energy Pot Wizards, like that 50-minute game was something else. And it could have, it shouldn't have, but it could have gone either way. Energy Pot Wizards definitely should have won that. 100%,
that was going to end at like 35 minutes, but they were being really, really careful about it. So it's fair enough. They just wanted to make sure that they could close and not risk coin flipping anything. But you could have seen the backdoor with Corki, or even just a blow up with the Corki, something. I know we had some choice words about Special, but who wants to jump on the MagiFelix explanation?
It's weird. He's on like, this should be perfect for him. Like, he's playing online. Azir's meta. Azir's like his most played champ ever, and even like just I don't know, like his shuffles on Azir don't like just look odd. He's like always doing it defensively. He's not really like setting things up with it. I don't know. It just looks weird. Even the games they won, where like, even the first game against Esports, like everyone else, Pride was 7-1. Like, when is Pride 7-1? Pride's meant to be like the weak one, and then MagiFelix was the one person that didn't seem to,
you look at,
to like pop off.
And you even look at Bravado, like you look at the 2 weak spots of what the Fnatic side was, especially in that Asuba game, and you would have said Pride Bravado. Bravado went 1-0-22 on, and it's on Yumi, but still he went 1-0-22. Like, MagiFelix was the weakest player in that team, and it's weird seeing that. But is this a positive thing for Fnatic Rising in a sense, where there isn't that reliance on MagiFelix, and maybe then if he can have these pop-off games, then that makes them even stronger, and that's what I look at it as.
I don't think there ever was a reliance on MagiFelix since xMatty came into the roster, because I consider xMatty to be the same player as Deadly, but without the champion pool issues. And xMatty is legit like top 380 at this tournament. The issue is that Bravado is a bit of a training weight. No offense to Bravado, I do like Bravado a lot as a person, and I think he used to be fantastic. He's just finding his footing, as it were, in the new region, and I think xMatty is fantastic. His build was really, really questionable on something though. What did he play with the weird build? Was it Senna? Yeah, it was Senna with like in their loss versus Energy Pot, it was Senna, and he went instead of lethality because they somehow drafted 4 AD with Senna for some reason, and Bravado had the Trundle that wasn't farming despite being funneled. So he couldn't go lethality because they had too much AD and people would just build armor against it. So he went like Muramana IE and something else, and he just never did anything that entire game. He could have played Sustain Senna, he could have not played Senna, but that was just hideous, genuinely.
Yeah, and that game against Energy Pot as well, like, that was another one. Again, MagiFelix on Azir didn't really seem to do anything. I guess one good thing we've talked about, XL don't seem to be willing to to go for the trundle. At least Bravado is willing to try it, and that does give him, like you said, it gives him the flex pick as well. I suppose
he tried, yeah.
I mean, Bravado and Dan both did play the Trundle, and BTX haven't played it once.
Yeah.
So it says. I wonder if it just says about priority of what they discover the picks. Obviously, with different. We've dependent on who you scrim as well, can also probably depend on what you think can actually be quite good. And we don't even know what's going on with scrims. Like BTXL could have been smashing in scrims and then losing every game with Trundle and be like, maybe it's not for us kind of thing. But in my opinion, you should play it anyway, if you can, which you should be able to do. But for me, like I look at Fnatic's comp, and I think there's a lot more diversity of who they can pick and different styles which they can play, which is kind of showing, I think, with the games which they've played in the 3.
Well, let's look at the last one. This one, I would have thought, well, maybe because I don't watch CRLs much, and I'm one of these. I see Mouse, and you see the roster, and then it's like, I know everyone. They must win. And it was, I would have thought it would not be a game Fnatic would win, to be honest. But they did.
Well, I've talked about it with BTXL, where I said that once they kind of lose, they just continually keep losing, and there doesn't seem to be any fight back. Like Mouse were beating Fnatic, and that's the difference. Like Mouse were, I think, about 2k gold in like 10 minutes, 11 minutes, and despite that obviously not being like, it's a massive game ender, it's still a punishing blow, and so Fnatic still had to fight and work that. And for me, like when you can win a game with less kills than your opponent, it's kind of proven through like macro and through like other ways of how you've managed to get that game and get that victory. And it provides the team with another option of just, instead of just killing all your opponents, like kind of working into doing other stuff as well, which is what they did. Like they out-objected them at the end.
Yeah. So the thing about Mals is that they live and die by leader in the mid lane. Their bot lane is really not that great. Yeskla is fine. Promiscu is less so. They overperformed in the first game to open EU Masters for them, and yeah, credit to them, they did carry that one. But typically, you have a fairly inconsistent bot lane. A top lane that's a coin flip, but when he's on, he is on, and if he gets Gangplank or Aatrox, he'll hard carry Tolkien. But yeah, mid jungle for Mals is name of the game. The issue is that I called Bravado a training weight for Xmati. Obsess is a training weight for Leader. Mals have literally the best mid outside of LEC in Leader when he's on his champions, which surprising amount of them now, by the way, he's added to that pool. But they have like a top 3 mid jungle in the tournament simply because Leader is like 90% of why that mid jungle is good, and Obsess is Sejuani one trick. So yeah, just Mal's very inconsistent, but when they're on, they're on.
To be fair, I was surprised Leader was not still in the LEC. Like when he was playing in summer, I thought he was really good. And
he got a bum deal, I think, at the end of the day. If we're being completely honest with him, because he got let go quite late as well, wasn't it, reportedly? So there are a lot of teams which had already been completed, and the whole Misfit situation was a mess, just in general. Whether there's obviously factors which a lot of us don't know, but from the outside looking in, it looked kind of like they were gonna go for stuff and then suddenly said no, let's go for this instead. Like for me personally, why would you not keep Leader instead of having Ronaldo? But that's just me at the end of the day. But I don't think that Leader's been the worst player for Mouse, let's be honest. He's been very good, but I do feel like sometimes, despite you saying about that champion pool, maybe the fact that they are over-reliant on him makes him feel like he has to play kind of these specific champions, and maybe if there was less reliance on him, he could kind of branch out and play more champions, especially in the EU Masters.
No, he's not that kind of, no. He hard carried in against Gamer Legion in the domestic Prime League on Zed of all things. So
it's kind of like his way or that's it.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. If he can't kill his lane opponent, he'll find kills mid-rotation on the enemy, like support and jungle when they're checking for vision, and it's really cool watching him just punish the entire enemy team by himself. it's not like insane 1v9. As I said, the bot lane overperformed and really did a great job in that opening game. But typically it's him, and occasionally Tolkien in the top lane deciding to play the game, especially with GP or Aatrox.
Let's maybe take a look at some of the other groups then.
I do just want to have one more about Fnatic as a whole, because we did slate him quite a lot, and I do think that Pride, from being, I would say, one of the weakest players, has stepped up slightly compared to what a lot of people thought. People thought he was kind of obviously Bravado's there, but in a support it's kind of easy to kind of be not carried, but it's kind of easy to not show the flaws. But I think that Pride was one of those players where we wouldn't even class him as probably like a top 3 in the UK, which is, mad in itself, really. But I think that he's actually put up decent games against some sides. Like against Tolkien, I think he actually played, pretty well overall. He's not been a hindrance, unlike probably what some other players have been. Not just BT, but in other regions, in other ERL teams as well. So I do thought we'd give him a bit of plays, because I feel like we do slate him every single episode.
Well, to be fair, the kind of way he's playing is like, it's literally like him and MagiFelix like swap their level. The stuff we said about MagiFelix, like, well, they're winning, but he could be doing better. That's like exactly what it's like with Pride. But yeah, Pride seems to have kind of stepped up a bit. Like you say, he's not a hindrance, and now MagiFelix is taking his turn to I don't know, not
take a back seat.
Yeah, that's
the thing about this group for Fnatic, though, and the thing about E-Masters in general, is that mid lane here is stacked and top lane is non-existent. Generally. Like, even looking at Group D alone, you have Luxie, who used to be like the second coming of Perks 3 years ago. He was really, really solid then. He's still fine now. MagiFelix, of course, is MagiFelix. Leader, who, as I said, best mid outside of LEC, in many people's opinions, including my own. And then Random is actually very, very solid. Jakey and Random are the reason why eSuper have that explosive early game. And that's really intriguing to watch for me. Top lane, on the other hand, is either coin flip players or just not great players. This E-Masters, and even the really solid top laners here, like the Antonio and I guess Beans, who is sometimes solid, they're tank players. So there's not a huge amount of volatility there.
And it could have been one of those situations where maybe Fnatic have realised this and looked at the strength of the pool and been like, right, okay, let's kind of do this, fully focus on the other lanes. Because while we've got MagiFelix, who can definitely hold his own against everybody, but maybe doesn't need to be the carry player and play through, weaker lanes. Because at the end of the day, that's a smart thing you do. You can't, even though you've got, I would say probably skill-wise, you've got MagiFelix, you've got Xmati, but between those two, like, that's about it. As in, like, not that's about it, but in terms of just in terms of skill gap, there's them and then there's the others.
To be fair as well, if they'd have kind of worked out from scrims, they may have, well, they probably would have known that it's going to be predominantly like Azir, Corki, pretty much every match. They might have seen that and kind of thought, we'll try and play elsewhere, because you're not really going to gank Corki that easily. So I don't know, maybe it's something like that as well. We'll see. Hopefully MagiFelix can step it up. Let's look at some of the other groups. Let's maybe touch on Group B. We've got Giants at the top at the moment and LDLC a second. I kind of had expected a bit more maybe from Rogue.
That's the mistake everyone makes going into E-Masters.
Mainly because I remember, because I thought Mystiques was really good when he was on Excel. And when he played in LEC, I thought he was really good as well.
Mystiques Warlight should have been LEC caliber bot lane in this offseason. Even in Poland, though, they were getting smacked around, and it didn't look like Rogue could be the ones to win out on everything. I think that team are fine. I think Sagenda is a top 3 top laner at this event. Everyone else is kind of like top 5-ish. Like, Warlight is genuinely a good player. He just still makes those crazy decisions.
Well, there was like the Ezreal... was it
the forward at the end to die? Yeah. Giants still looking like tournament favorites, by the way, especially with Schalke's performance with Gilius until they brought in Larox because of internet issues. Giants definitely did look unchallenged for, best team in this event. And actually, looking at LDLC, who we had really low expectations for, they're actually playing fine too. So it's an okay group. I like it. Tournament favorite, and then you have like 1.5 teams contending for second seed.
And I think as well, like LDLC definitely surprised me because I think obviously it's great to see a name like Yellowstar in, but it is always one of those question marks of, kind of why is Yellowstar. But I think actually Yellowstar's done a really decent job, and he is clearly the leader in that group. And do you not think he's the leader in that group? Do you think there's someone else then?
Tinks is the driving force behind why this team is as good as they are, and he takes control of the early game really, really handily. He used to be LEC tier, and I think that he definitely will be heading into summer or even into 2021. I think Yellowstar is, of course, that calming voice, that guiding voice, and the fact they changed AD carry but still look largely, unfazed, besides the fact they got completely blown out by Gamers Origin in playoffs. Credit to Yellowstar there, and Vethio is fine. Bondo plays very well at his playstyle of just being that soaking unit, but Tinks is the driving force behind why this team is a contender for maybe even top 4 if they're really lucky with the matchup.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think it has overall kind of surprised me. And I was one of the same. I was like, Agar Rogue, clearly going to be one of the best sides. But this is just purely because you kind of look at the academy teams, and I haven't looked at too much of the Polish league and stuff like that. So you kind of look at the players.
Very slow meta, very, very, very slow meta is the thing.
But Vodafone Giants, I think that Pretty has actually done a very good job in a lot of strong, we're talking about the mid lane being very strong. I think that he's held his own up against a lot of the mid laners. And I do think that the Vodafone Giants team in general just looks really good. And then you forget that an Attila's in that squad. And then you realize what he's actually playing. And you're like, okay, the Antonio is probably the best top laner, I think, from what I've seen.
Yeah.
And then you've got Attila, who's consistently good and obviously has been at LEC
The
level.
bot lane is the best bot lane in this tournament as well.
And then you've got
top 3 mid. And
yeah, exactly. But even so, then the fact that you've got someone who I would say is very consistent and was consistent. Was it at Mad Lions as well? Was he what previously?
Sorry, Pretty.
Was Pretty.
Pretty, I remember from Movistar, I think, last year.
Okay, yes. So, but he was someone who was also, I thought, quite consistent overall. I don't really know too much about.
Mad Lions. You were right.
Yeah, it was Mad Lions. Yeah.
I remember him from Millennium in season 5.
Yes, because he made it to they made it to the semis, I believe, in spring last year, and I think one of the players couldn't make it into the online or something like that. But yeah, because I remember going to it and I was like, oh, that's really unfortunate. But yeah, I thought that Pretty's actually done a really decent job. The only person I didn't really know too much about was Llama Bear too much.
He used to play on Misfits way back when. He's fine. He got a competitive ban once. I remember that. He played on Mysterious Monkeys, I want to say, which was Misfits Academy when they got bought for LEC. Now the Ad Hoc Gaming over in the Prime League. But yeah, he's okay. He's absolutely fine. He's the worst member of this team on paper. But the rest of the team is top tier, so someone has to be not quite as good.
And they play as a team. I think there's some ERL sides, even though they've been playing in ERL divisions and stuff like that, sometimes they still don't feel like they're playing as a team. They're playing kind of themselves to try to get an LEC spot or to show off at some points. This side does really feel like a team, and I think a lot of that is probably the Vodafone's giant organization as a whole. A lot of these Spanish sides do take it really seriously when it comes to kind of creating these rosters, and they take it seriously as they want to be considered probably one of the best ERLs outside one, which isn't LEC at this point. And you kind of show that with the talent which has come through. The organizations are right there.
Actually, the biggest upset for me when we look at the state of these groups is that if Movistar do stay in 3rd place of Group C, we only have one Spanish org in the top 8. And yeah, Giants are tournament favorites, but in the regular split of the LVP, SLO, whatever you want to call it, Spanish Regional League, Movistar, Giants, and Mad Lions all looked relatively even. Yeah, Giants looked to be a clear cut ahead of the others, but they were still taking games off of each other. Giants even got pushed to 5 games in the finals, which finished at 2:30 a.m., by the way, 2 weeks ago or something. It was really gross, but hey, it happens. But yeah, it was really, really surprised that the region as a whole is not looking too hot this EU Masters, but that team is the real deal.
Well, we talk about how good Pretty's been playing. I think this is a good comparison when we're talking about how it looks like Special has struggled to have an impact. When I was watching, I think it was their first game, and he was playing LeBlanc, and he hadn't to be fair, it didn't look, it was a similar kind of thing for a while. Didn't look like he was doing much. He was clearly looking for an angle in to blow someone up, and didn't look like he was getting it. And then like mid late game, he just did it like 5 times, and he was able to find those angles that like Special hasn't been able to. Special's first game was on LeBlanc as well, and he couldn't do it. And maybe that's where we're seeing that kind of difference now. Now they are against, obviously they haven't played each other, but now we're in a tournament with high level competition.
Yeah.
Let's look a bit at Group C. Schalke, I think, were pretty much the favourites for the whole tournament.
Yes, kinda. They look a lot shakier when playing with Gilius, and the fact that he had internet issues was maybe a blessing in disguise because it let them bring in Lurox. Lurox and Certus, best mid-jungle duo at EU Masters. The reason why I said that maybe they're not the best mid-jungle duo overall for Schalke is because, of course, Schalke were playing with Gilius for most of this tournament and had intended to use him. Of course, Lurox got that call up to the LEC squad to try and salvage the split, which didn't really happen, but hey. Yeah. Kick coming in at second is a lot more interesting to me, actually, because this team looked kind of in the Ultraliga, and then they've really shored it together for playoffs. And the fact that they, looked kind of shaky in play-ins, they lost a game against the Greek team WLG and then pulled it back. They play really well as a cohesive unit, actually, and I have a lot of respect for Kick, and I think that they're probably a dark horse to win the whole thing if Giants do kind of fall flat and if the German seeds do their thing.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think they've been like the biggest kind of biggest upset, or like, I don't want to say like overachievers, but like the team maybe wouldn't have expected to be one of the top ones. They've already knocked out Mad Lions.
Biggest overachiever was Taxa during the regular season of the UKLC. No flame.
I think this is, out of all the groups, this is actually the one which I'm most excited to see. If I take out kind of like the UK bias, because I actually find like Movistar, Kick, and Schalke to be kind of at this point, just off me seeing EU Masters, at a similar level, and they feel like they kind of can counteract each other in different lanes. I look at Kick and I look at Pookie style, and I don't know anything about this guy apart from what happened. The guy looks great.
He only plays traditional ADs, which is a criticism I had of other teams, but he does it with finesse. He's actually Poland's biggest meme streamer, by the way. I thought he was just going to be but he's actually been like top tier talent throughout his entire career. He's played like a couple of roles competitively as well, but he's legit a top tier AD carry in and of himself. Mid jungle show for Kick though. Matislav quite inconsistent. No, sorry, very, very consistent rather, but just quiet overall. And he got called kind of invisible in lane by the other mid laners I talked to, but it's just because Ultraliga meta is slow, it's Corki Azir, it's sit back, play it safe, kind of bleed out pressure from the enemy team just by soaking ganks again and again while playing really safely. I think Zlatan is insane. He punishes the enemy jungler really well by splitting the map, by being proactive when he needs to. But the issue is that they sit back and wait for the enemy team to mess up and make a mistake before being super proactive. The exception to that being the top laner Ice Beasto, who is the definition of a coin flip. You never know what to expect from him. He used to be LCS caliber in the first in second split of the first E-Masters, summer 2018. And now he's kind of but some days he's on it, some days he's just kind of bad. But you don't know what to expect from him. And I think that added level of volatility is actually pretty good for a team that you can otherwise expect just to play fully reactively.
Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest losers out of all this are probably Team Singularity, who, unfortunately, are probably, that I would say, are the unluckiest 0-3 side in the groups, because there is a clear difference between Team Singularity and the other three. It's not, I can't see them getting a win against any of these three sides, and it may be a case where whoever gets the victory is the one whoever gets the loss, is the one who finishes third in this group, because it could be on that knife edge, especially with it now going to my favorite format, which is all the games in one day. It's just so dramatic and it's great. And BT are gonna love it because it goes on form.
They're momentum, they're momentum-based players. But the thing that I typically have rated a lot of these teams by their mid-jungle duos, just because mid-jungle is, of course, influencing the side lanes. Plus, mid lane is absolutely stacked for CE Masters, as per usual. Jungle pool's not that terrible either. And despite the fact that I consider Elyoya to be probably top 2 jungler at this entire tournament for Movistar, like 3 best junglers in the tournament are all in Group C, by the way. So it's pretty insane. If Larox does play for Schalke, I mean. But yeah, it's pretty insane. It's pretty hype. But the issue is, Movistar don't play as a mid-jungle duo. They play as mid-jungle support trio. And if you can't get Rux unlocked from the support role, they just kind of fold. When taken strict 2v2, Shiko plus Elyoya just can't really match up to really any of the other teams in this group, bar Singularity.
Would Schalke able to play Inax still?
Yes, they are, but they wouldn't, is the thing, because Neon is actually probably maybe better than Inax, I'd say. He just needed time to gel. Neon is legitimately top tier, and he was definitely LEC caliber for the past couple of years. Plus, he had his competitive ban for the first 10 weeks or whatever of this year, but he's legitimately really, really good, and he can play Syndra.
Neon's another one of those players where I think you can kind of look at him and think he could potentially go into LEC next level. And as much as Inex, I think is actually a good bot laner from what we've seen as well. It's kind of one of those unfortunate situations where someone better just ends up coming up, and you'd be stupid not to take that situation. I think at the end of the day,
sure.
It's just one of those. But I talk about Movistar Riders just a little bit. Like I do get the sense of what you're saying is that you kind of look at your Kick and you look at Schalke Revolution and you kind of see like these are playing styles which are getting them victories, where you can see with Movistar that I feel like in their games they're having to work for it a lot more, and that is because of kind of what you've been saying, which is just really interesting to kind of see from that aspect. I do think that the top 2 is going to be Schalke and Kick from this. I just don't see which one's going to be top. But then, like you said, like with the Spanish league, that is only one representative. But then that could all be blown out of the water if they win it anyway. So it's kind of like, yeah, one didn't make it out. One didn't make it into groups. One didn't make it out of group stages, but one won. So yeah.
Yeah, still be handy for the coefficient or whatever it's worked out. That's another thing with. Course. Oh yeah, you go for it. Go.
Okay. Giants, of course, finalists last year as well in summer. Mad Lions winning 2018 pretty handily as well. Yeah, pretty good look for them. Just cool group.
But I do think that the German teams are really showing up this.
By the way, on the topic of the German teams, kind of related to what you mentioned earlier, because I remember we spoke about XL having 5 long-term residents, and as well as that, the Spanish Regional League looking to prove themselves as the best or most competitive one. German Regional League teams, every LEC or LCS player, if they've played more than, I think, 2 splits in LEC or LCS, get German residency from living in the gaming house in Berlin. So
I never thought of that.
That's why you see a lot of LCS names in these teams, and that's why you'll probably see a couple more in the coming years.
Oh, you know what? It's one of those things which you never think of. But yeah, you kind of look at the players which are in there, and you're thinking, oh yeah, probably a lot of them have German residency just off being there. Yeah. That is mental. Like, is that? I mean, obviously you can't really change it just for one region, but is that something which maybe they should consider? Is it fair to a point?
I think it's fine because there are salary caps now. So.
Well, the UK, that's why we've looked, they've seen they've got their dodgy residency, so now we just merge like 4 countries, 5, 6 countries into one, and we get any of them.
Yeah, we should do a poll on we should do a poll on which UK org is going to have no UK residents. There's going to be odd
XL done it when there even was when it was still you had to be UK residents. They still had no UK players. So I just want to mention as well, because I know that I think it works on like some kind of coefficient now, right? So if because the UKLC didn't have obviously 2 spots in groups before. It's been like shuffled around a bit, so we get them straight into groups. No one goes into play-ins. We're joking that about XL playing so crap, but you know, if this happens at a few EU Masters in a row, could we actually see at that point it will be the NLC, but
no, I think that this merger is actually a subtle way of getting rid of that Nordic Tier 1 seeding for the Singularity you're in, because I think that that's actually a good way of getting rid of that, because of course the Nordic teams, besides that initial Ninjas in Pajamas roster, have just kind of disappointed overall. And I think you'll probably just see the region move to 2 main event seeds plus 1 play-in seed.
So we've
if I had to guess, it'd be that just merging the 2 together. I think at this point. However, I do get the point of what you're saying is that if they continually don't do well, and even you look at like the Team Singularity at 0-3, is there a worry about that? And I think you can only find out that when the NLCs actually come together, because we don't know how strong the league is going to be in terms of how competitive it's going to be.
Also, we've had no confirmation about EU Masters spots for next one anyway. So.
And they're not even, I don't even think they're considering talking about it yet, because I think they're waiting to kind of see and sort things out. I've got a feeling it'd be a different coefficient system just because of the way that the NLC is done, where they might say, right, here's the top 4 leagues, or here's the top 3 leagues, and vice versa. And I think that they're kind of figuring it out. So I would be so annoyed, though, if we get 1 main event and 1 play-ins, because then it's basically going to be XL and Fnatic, and then all the Danish league teams just getting, not all the Nordic league teams just getting nothing. And that's just going to be so upsetting.
I genuinely think you'll get 2 main event, 1 play-ins. Yeah, because then you already have a main event seed left over as well.
Yeah, true.
That continues like this.
Because wouldn't they have? They had a couple of spots.
Sorry, you'll have a play-in seed.
Yeah, because then I think we might have mentioned it on the last episode that we presume they would give, because that would mean 2 spots have gone. So we just presume they give an extra one maybe to the French league as well, and just even it all out with the top 4.
Probably, yeah.
So that seems probably most likely.
It's a good old Champions League coefficient. That's what it is. Just give it to the top 4.
Yeah. Well, we'll have like.
Don't say that.
Ooh, actually, it may very well go to. No, never mind. Actually, I was gonna say it may actually very well go to Poland, but then I realized nope. Misfits Premier won in spring, and Gamers Origin may actually win this one. But yeah, it's going to France, probably.
Yep. I think with that, we're probably done on this episode. Has anyone got anything else they want to cover on EU Masters? Or?
Well, I just want to get like people's over-exaggeration. So if we just go off kind of like what has happened so far, which team would you say has got the best chance of winning EU Masters? Obviously, this is a complete over-exaggeration because we don't really know what's going to happen in the next round, and teams could go. But I think if I had to go first, I would have to say it's Vodafone Giants out of all of them. I know obviously they've been 3-0, and I was actually going to go for a team like Kick, actually, if I went for a major over-exaggeration. But for me, like, Vodafone Giants have looked one of the most consistent, one of the strongest sides, and a team unit throughout. Watch them go 0-3 in the week. I doubt they will, but I just feel that side is going to perform very well, and I'd be very shocked if I don't see them reach finals at least. And I think as a Spanish org, I think that the whole of Spain will be disappointed if they don't reach finals at least, especially considering they might be Spain's last hope.
Yeah, I think Giants are like 40% chance of taking it. Then I'd say maybe 20% for Schalke. That gives me 40% left. So then I also give 20% to 20% to Gamer Legion, 10% Gamers Origin, then 5 each to Kick and Mouse. Just like a non-answer, like 7 or something. But genuinely, dark horses here for me are going to be Gamer Legion and Kick, who I really think can actually take it. Stylistically, they mesh very well against a lot of the other teams. The issue is that Kick may be a little bit too slow. But actually, you'll see that Matislav does a very good job at neutralizing any pressure that comes his way from the enemy mid-jungle duo, and that should shut down and confuse a lot of the other teams. Gamer Legion, on the other hand, they play multiple styles very well, but not insanely well. But I think having the volatility in a best of 3 in particular is going to be like an edge that they can easily run with.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be really good to see a fully like one nationality side win EU Masters, which Kick would do. Yeah, which would be insane and kind of probably puts Poland as one of the most dominant regions in terms of, especially in terms of junglers. If you look at the junglers which they've produced, it's insane. But it's very interesting.
I guess mine then. I'll go really off the rails. So what's going to happen is XL are going to get Young Buck on the phone. And maybe he's, because of the rules, he's not been with the side. Maybe he's not technically allowed in, but he might accidentally.
Is he not?
I don't know, because I'm just saying.
No, because I'm pretty sure Dylan Falco is coaching for Schalke at the moment.
Oh,
so...
it's true. I saw it come up.
Yeah.
There you go then.
Yeah, it should be
Young
fine.
Buck. They're going to get him in, and that's it. It's just going to sort it out, and they'll 3-0. Everyone else will just take games off each other and let XL get through, and then just going to win it.
All right.
And that's 100% chance.
I think you have a more chance of getting no UK teams out. Honestly, genuinely, I think there's like a 90% chance, no, 80% chance, because Fnatic still have a slight opportunity here that no UK team makes it out of groups.
Which would suck. Especially, but purely off the fact of that, a lot of people have said that the UK scene hasn't performed to expectations in terms of other EU Masters, and I've kind of looked at them and think, well, actually, I don't think we've done as bad as when you actually look at the teams which have gone through. I think Fnatic reached semi-finals twice, and for me, like, if you could reach semi-finals twice, it'd be still considered like an underrated and undervalued region. I don't think that's bad. I think this is the kind of the proof of like, oh yeah, okay, the UK scene isn't as strong as what people think, especially if no team gets out. But that could be what is needed, because that could be the case of like, right, let's a good job that there is a change in kind of system and the change of how things are, because it might actually be a positive thing, and this might have been foreseen that there isn't actually the same strength as talent as what there is in other regions. Yeah, so sure. We'll have to see.
Hopefully the merger sorts it out. Fingers crossed. I think we'll call it there then. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone that's watching. I think we got a few people in here today, and it will go up tomorrow elsewhere as well. So if you are watching on Twitch at the moment, be sure to drop a follow. If you're listening later on Spotify, on YouTube, you can follow on those as well. And you can see our Twitters all on the screen too. So if you like what you hear from any of us, then you can drop us a follow there as well. And that's it. Thanks for watching.